Penguin Random House Audio presents. This is Body Grief, making peace with the loss that comes with living in a body. This is the author, Jayne Mattingly. For Sean, my husband. Author's note. As you listen to this book, you will find detailed stories of body grief as experienced by humans from all walks of life. Some of these individuals have chosen to share their names and identifying characteristics, and some have chosen to change their names while still bravely sharing their stories with the world. I hope you hold these stories as close to your heart as you would your own. I have also created some composite stories using examples from my client practice. In these stories, many details have been changed and no identifying information has been used. You may see yourself, your friends, your family, your neighbor, your inner child, or your past self in these stories. I ask you to hold space for all these parts with kindness and compassion. Without storytelling, there is no healing. I'm incredibly grateful to everybody who sat down with me and shared their hearts and their body grief with this community. Thank you. You are changing lives. Introduction. Tuck, 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 and hold. Tuck, 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 and hold. Pulse 2, 3, 4. There I was, on a Saturday summer morning in a bar class, the smell of coffee and dry shampoo in the air, pulsing and tucking my little ass and heart away. "Oh my God," I yelped out of nowhere. I could barely move. It was as if someone had superglued my feet to the ground and filled my body to the brim with liquid cement. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, hoping it was just a wave of exhaustion. I just needed to push through it. "Come on, stop whining," I told myself, glancing around at the other type A white woman in the studio. But then the pattern on my leggings started to blur and disappeared, as if my eyes had also decided to take a time out. I waved awkwardly to the instructor by way of apology and snuck out of the studio. Later, I chalked the experience up to exhaustion and stress. At 27, I was graduating with my master's in clinical mental health counseling while being a teaching assistant nannying for 2 households, working at a therapist's office, and starting my own business. I didn't have time to question if I might be sick. Instead, I took this early departure from my workout as an excuse to get home and do some work. But as the weekend progressed, I wondered if I had pulled my neck muscles during my piece of cake bar class. I was in a significant amount of discomfort, yet as usual, I powered through. The following Tuesday at work, this coping strategy would fail spectacularly. The thing about your body is, when it's trying to tell you something, it won't stop sending you messages until they're finally acknowledged. And unfortunately, the longer you ignore these messages, the louder and louder they often get. Sitting at my desk in the therapist's office, I suddenly realized I couldn't move my upper body. It was just like that book I'd read when I was young, about the girl who had polio and lived in an iron lung. I felt paralyzed. Then the pain came. Pain like I had never experienced before. My eyes felt as if they were being pushed out of my head. My skull felt like it was about to explode. And my spine felt like it was made of lead. Every time I blinked, my sight got blurrier. When my boss came out of her appointment, we immediately locked eyes. "I'm not okay," I admitted shakily. "I think something is seriously wrong with me." In an instant, she grabbed her keys, took my hand, and locked the office doors. "We're going to the ER," she said sternly, leaving no room for argument. I had never been to the ER as an adult, yet this would be the first of many visits. 5 similar episodes later, I would receive my first official diagnosis: pseudotumor cerebri, now called idiopathic intracranial hypertension, IIH. Intracranial hypertension is a rare neurological disorder that causes the cerebral fluid surrounding your spinal cord and brain to build up to a dangerous point. The high pressure this puts on the spine and brain can cause blurred vision, blindness, severe head pain, bruising to the brain and spinal cord, confusion, nausea and vomiting, sleep disturbances, dizziness, numbness, and tingling in the hands and feet, disturbances in gait, and ringing in the ears. In other words, a litany of symptoms that matched what I was experiencing. The doctors explained that this would be a chronic issue that would need to be closely managed by the neurology and neurosurgery teams, and that I would need to be on medication and receive routine lumbar punctures simply to be able to function day to day. My diagnosis led to the first of many brain surgeries, and I became a frequent guest at the hospital. As my abilities dwindled and it became impossible to keep up with my packed high-achieving schedule, I felt my self-worth begin to ebb away. I was confused and distraught. How could this be happening to me? I had my entire life ahead of me, and now I felt like I was preparing for a funeral every day. A passive sense of doom pervaded my existence. I was in mourning, but I didn't know what for. The day I realized there was no going back to the way I used to be, I was lying on a musty, cold hospital bed, unable to function. I had gone in for an ultrasound of my inner thigh. Following my initial surgery, my thigh was swollen, hot, and causing me severe pain at the site where they had injected the catheter. The doctors were puzzled by my ongoing symptoms. As they scratched their heads, a dawning dread crept into my veins, and I felt a deep, pervasive current of sadness wash through me. A truth tugged at my heart. My situation was no longer temporary. I was devastated. In that moment, I was experiencing what I now know as body grief. What is body grief? Body grief is the sense of loss and mourning that comes with living in an ever-changing body. We've all experienced it when our body changes in ways that seem beyond our control and therefore no longer feel like our own. This is body grief. When we realize our body will never get back to how it used to be or look, and the truth of this unravels our sense of identity. This is body grief. When we feel like our bodies have betrayed us in some way. This is body grief. When we move through the world feeling uncomfortable in our own skin, knowing we might be harmed simply because of what we look like or who we love. This is body grief. Given the systems of oppression that operate in our world, this means that body grief can be even more intense for people in non-white, non-cis bodies. The more our body deviates from what is considered the norm, the more pronounced the body grief. We will be talking about this in depth throughout this book. Body grief is universal, but it is also incredibly personal, as are the experiences that can thrust us into body grief. You get sick and are no longer able to accomplish your to-do lists or work toward fulfilling your goals. You find yourself gaining or losing weight unexpectedly, and you worry you no longer fit into the impossible, socially imposed beauty standards that hold so much power over us. You might get into an accident and lose your mobility for a while, or even permanently. You may enter perimenopause much earlier than you planned, grieve a pregnancy that you weren't quite ready for, or grapple with the lack of options as a larger-bodied person while out shopping with friends. Perhaps a cool new restaurant opens but isn't accessible to your mobility needs, or your feelings are yet again intellectualized and diminished when you tried to open up about racial inequality in the workplace. All of these situations, and the losses associated with them, might trigger body grief. These losses may be related to control or autonomy over our body and its functions, or something about our body that once gave us some sense of worth. Our body now looks, feels, and works differently. This is not fair. We might think, and we feel let down, perhaps even grappling with the question of, why me? Yet each of these experiences represents a loss, and with each loss comes body grief. Until now, we have had no language, and therefore no tools, for how to process the complex range of emotions that make up this experience. The reality is,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?